All right, this video is the 6 books that absolutely changed my life. Dropping them. In no particular order. Number 1, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. So this details Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl's horrifying experiences in Nazi concentration camps, and along with his psychological approach of logotherapy, which is also what helped him survive and shows you that really you can and you must find meaning in your life. Quick story, this book was actually given to me by an awesome girl, and it was like a serendipity moment. And I'm so glad she's a psychologist, and I'm so glad she gave this to me. It's a small read, and it changed my life. It's been mentioned so many times on podcasts that I listen to. So with each book here, I'm gonna run through like little stories with what these books have meant to me and lessons that I learned from that I want to share with you. One of the biggest messages that resonates with me that I use on a daily basis. Viktor Frankl talks about this gap between stimulus and response. So when something happens in our life externally, or someone says something to us that we don't like, or something bad's happening in the world, most of us get really reactive. So there's no gap between what's happening, the stimulus, and the response. This is all about creating a gap where we can choose a response that is powerful for us. So we take a little time, maybe it's a second, maybe it's 5 seconds, we take in some breath, and when that bad shit is happening, or when 2020 is going on, we can take a breath. We can take a breath and choose what our response is going to be. And in that gap, Viktor Frankl talks about, lies unbelievable power, and he is so right. This is something that I've kind of grown up with. I studied sports psychology books when I was little and got really into mindset, and started to use psychology for sports because I wanted to be as good as I can be at sports. And then I realized it affected every area of my life. Every area started to become impacted by my mindset. And it was really about choosing perspectives. And this book takes it to a whole nother level, realizing no matter what people take away from you, and no matter what crazy situations Viktor Frankl and other people were in those camps, they still had this power to choose their perspective. And there's stories in this book about them dancing together, even at the most horrific scenarios, and they're still dancing and putting on performances almost like a play and theater to each other. There's something incredibly powerful when we lean into our choice of response versus being reactive. And most of us, of course, are driven by our emotions and our thoughts, and they trigger very quickly in our body, right? And so we get really reactive, and we maybe lash back at someone or say the wrong thing to someone and regret it later. And so I massively recommend this book. There's so much more than just the power of perspective. It's really down to finding that meaning, finding that purpose, finding that drive in your life where it's something bigger than you. And so if there's one takeaway here in summary, it is about always having some kind of meaning and drive in your life that means something really deep to you, and practicing using the power of perspective. Practicing using that gap, using your breath to get less reactive. Number 2 is Atomic Habits by James Clear. This is absolute game changing. Many people, podcasts, entrepreneurs, famous entrepreneurs, massive entrepreneurs always talk about this book. And so what was really interesting to me, quick story, is if I think of going through my breakup, my divorce, and a really hard situation, almost just a few weeks later, I was happy. I was excited about my new life. Even though it's a really difficult situation, I was stepping into massive action. I was exploring things. I was trying new classes all over the place. I ended up at salsa classes, at tango classes, at hip hop classes, and all sorts of dance, all sorts of fitness, all sorts of really cool environments. And I kept doing it over and over again, trying little things. And even though I stumbled across that, I was living my life by habits, by tiny steps, repeating things that lit me up and felt amazing to me. I didn't really have any massive goals, but just in these little small steps of exploring. And that was really mesmerizing to me. And then I came across this book and realized how important habits are. I had to get good again at socializing, and I was useless. I was shy, super shy. And so I went for these social adventures of just saying hi to people, practice social. And so I started writing down things, writing down any little bits of courage that I would do, and I would tick them off. Whether it was going to a dance class, I would go there and I would tick it off. Whether it was saying hi to someone, I would tick it off. Going to the gym, I would tick it off. And something magical happened with actually writing things down and ticking things off, which James Clear talks about in Atomic Habits in detail. Of the power of these habits, especially, and here's a really, really key point, especially when we write them down and we see them visually, they're so much more likely to actually come to fruition. Now, goals are kind of vague in their nature. Unless we break them down into these tiny steps, as James Clear talks about, let's say 100,000 1%. It's all about the 1% added up, which creates this thing called the compound effect, which is massive. And even though we don't see massive results when we go to the gym at first, our first 10, 20 sessions, over time, even if we're doing less every time, over time with consistency, we get massive results. So quick summary about the book. We talked about the 1% that add up to this compound effect, which is massive. So with my notes here, so the book talks about a habit loop, a cue, a craving, a reward, and a response. And so when we create this cycle, we can create new habits, new powerful habits to achieve any goal and dream that we want. There's 4 main laws in the book that bring this to life. So law 1, make the thing that you want to do visible. So write it down, for example. I write things down on dry erase boards so I know exactly what habit I want to achieve. Maybe you lay your gym gear out next to your bed the night before, ready for the morning. Another great thing here is to stack your habits together. So for instance, as soon as I've had a shower, I'm always going to follow up with my 30 push-ups, for example, every single day. So you can start to stack habits together until your body and your mind is used to actually following that new routine. And also design your environment for success. So eliminate any bad things from your environment and set up your environment, whether this is decluttering or getting your gym clothes ready to go. Set up your environment for success. Law 2, make it attractive. Have things like a motivation ritual. Make it exciting and appealing and make it something that gives you kind of goosebumps inside. And law 3 is make it easy. So I always talk about just starting. The first 2 minutes of starting a habit, picking up the guitar, starting to write. So make the start piece really, really achievable. And law 4 is to make it satisfying. So what is rewarded is repeated. So find yourself a reward and treat yourself. Make it feel good when you achieve these habits, especially when you get a streak and tick off a streak of things, and reward yourself, praise yourself. And so to wrap up with this brief summary of Atomic Habits, if you want to break a bad habit, then you do the opposite of the four laws. So instead of making it visible, you make it invisible. You make it unattractive. You make it really hard to do a bad habit. Get snacks out of the house is a great example of not overeating. And make it unsatisfying. There's so much more gold in here, but we're going to move on. I recommend everyone to have a copy of this. A massive one. It is literally a massive book. It's a little dirty as well, but I'm not sure what happened to this. I think there was an ink leak. But Letting Go by David Hawkins, Dr. David Hawkins. Can get a little on the spiritual side, but it is massively powerful for understanding emotional awareness and then being able to let go of emotions. So most of us are stuck with all these stories and pain and trauma from the past, maybe from when we were a little kid. And they impact and control all of our lives right now. They control our relationships and they kind of self-sabotage us when we can't let past things go that no longer serve us. For 37 years, I would say, I didn't have a clue about actually what I was really, really feeling. I was so good at just keeping at a calm level, again from this sports psychology stuff. I kept myself at a very even-keeled level. So when things happened in a relationship that bothered me, I wouldn't even open the door on that emotion. I'm not even looking at the emotions because I was Mr. Logic. If there was a problem that came up, just like most guys, we have to get our checkboxes and tick off how to solve the problem. People talk a lot about manning up and this can be really, really toxic, especially for guys. And then guys bring this frustration into their relationship and take it out on others. Manning up essentially is about blocking what you feel and just pretending to be tough. And so we push down all of these emotions and We think we can solve problems by acting tough and solving jigsaw puzzles, Mr. Logic, a problem. But of course, when it comes to connections and relationships and these powerful scenarios in our life, they're all actually about the feeling, about the emotional side of people. And that was the emotional side. And that was a massive revelation after my divorce. It taught me amazing things. As tough as it was, it taught me that life is all actually about the feeling. And I'll get to that when we talk about desire map in a minute. The principles in this book and reading this book really helped me get from a place from a divorce, a complex divorce, with a kid in the middle, to getting to a place where that whole family unit is a family and friends. We are great friends, and we get on so well, and everyone hangs out with everyone from the past. And so the only way you can possibly do that is by understanding your emotions and being aware of your emotions, and then being able to let them go, knowing that the letting go piece is the thing that will give you the most freedom, you the most joy, you the most happiness, and unlocks the pain of the past, literally kind of lets it float away. So you feel lighter, you feel amazing inside, you feel so much lighter. And you can finally move forward into empowerment, into a place where you can achieve and smash any goal, but you also feel incredibly light and happy again. And of course, this will then open the doors for you to make amazing new connections with new people if you're going through a breakup or a divorce. So massively recommend this book. I use it again in big and small ways. We talked about Viktor Frankl's choosing powerful perspectives. So in the context here, it's all about feeling the emotion that needs to be heard. If it keeps on coming back, it's trying to send you a message. Blocking emotions will only come back again in more ugly ways. They will always come back. What we really need to do is go straight through the middle of these emotions. And I'm talking to guys. Women are usually amazing at this. Life is all about the emotions and the feelings. Everything else gets built on top. So if we can master letting go, this also gives us the freedom to be able to get through anything, any shit that comes up in our life, any difficult situation. We can see where we are emotionally and be able to have a process for letting go. So David Hawkins talks about the 5-step process for letting go. And like I said, it's going directly through the heart of the emotion, appreciating it, loving it, having a bit of compassion for what you went through. And that is the only true way to finally let it release. And it's all about detachment. There's a map of consciousness also in here, which is incredibly powerful for knowing how you're feeling. And this is all about being at the bottom of the chart as negative emotions, and knowing that you want to go up the chart to these positive feelings. So you want to go from when you're experiencing guilt, apathy, grief, and fear, knowing that you want to be stepping into courage, because courage is the big turning point here that sends you up and makes you feel lighter and happier and have amazing connections with other people. So the lessons of this book is not to let things like anger build up inside you and kind of destroy your mind. And it's chronically, it starts to, when it happens over and over again, it starts to destroy your whole body. And letting this stuff go. If it doesn't serve you, it's time to let it go. And the map of consciousness being an incredible map for actually knowing how you're feeling, that emotional awareness. And emotional awareness is really one of the most massive things I ever discovered. These days, the connections with others are so much deeper, more authentic, more powerful. And just knowing you can get through anything is one of the most powerful feelings ever. And it's usually about feeling your way authentically and emotionally through the experience and letting go of the bits that that no longer serve you. So that is a beautiful lead onto the Desire Map by Danielle LaPorte. I'm going to be really quick on this book, and I love this book so much. It's very interactive. There's lots of exercises and journaling things to fill out. A friend of mine told me about this book, and I remember her saying, typically women buy this book, but I know you would absolutely love it. And she was right, because This changed the way I set goals. And that is massive. Because if you think about it, whether it's a woman or a man that wants to go on a mission, wants to create a business, sell that business, whether you want to have a beautiful house one day, whether you want to have kids, whether you want to have a fast car, this really cleared up that material things aren't bad. It's all about the feeling of those material things and how long that feeling lasts. That was a bit of a game changer for me, of realizing we all want to feel a certain way. If I want to sell a business and get a lot of money, that's because I want to maybe have freedom to be able to travel, because I want to feel. And why do I want to travel? It's because I want to have that feeling of adventure. Why do we want to have kids? Because we want to feel and experience the love. Why do we want to have a fast car? Because we want to feel amazing and adventurous when we're in that fast car. Why do we want deep conversations? Because it makes us feel alive and makes us feel connected. Why do we go to the gym? We want to feel stronger. And when you go down and down and down, you end up with these core desired feelings. This book has an amazing section, which I always reference, of 150 positive feelings about how do you want to feel. And some of them, I've talked about this before, some of them in here that I've underlined are: I want to feel creative, I want to feel curious, I want to feel confident, connected, aliveness, authentic, bold. The feeling of boldness is huge to me. It's like a drive forward, an electricity in my body. I want to feel energized. I want to feel hope. I want to feel inspired. I want to feel goosebumps. I want to feel love. I want to feel momentum, masculine. I want to feel open-hearted. So the list goes on. And when we build these core desired feelings, we then add our goals on top. So we can validate any goals, habits, dreams that we want to chase with a yes or no, based on, does it lead us to a place of how you want to feel? So before you go down a path of a goal, work out, why are you doing it? Work out the feeling underneath it and if it's valid. All right, so no more Mr. Fix-Its out there. Letting go, tune into our emotions, know what our core desired feelings are, and build your life around feeling, because it is all about feeling good and not feeling bad. And everything else really is on top. This, again, is a gigantic book. And this is one you probably haven't heard of, maybe. Dr. Aziz Gazipura. And so they talk in the start of the book. This is actually a game changer for me as well. Coming from definitely being too nice, and my family are absolutely wonderful and nicest people ever. Sometimes in the world, as many of us know, we can become too much of a people pleaser, which is great until it starts to take your alignment and your energy away from actually being you, until you don't even know quite who you are anymore, because we're doing so much for other people. So the opposite of being too nice is not being an asshole. The opposite is being absolutely real and being kind and nice from a place of authenticity and knowing exactly who you are and your identity. The difference with this too nice here in this book is doing things for others in order to get something back, rather than doing things for others in kindness where you don't need anything back. Now, that is the really powerful difference. This book was really phenomenal. There's some amazing exercises in here, such as the hell yes and no, where you draw two columns. So I want to share this with you. Draw two columns on a piece of paper and then look at a week of your life. Maybe I ended up looking at a week of my old life and comparing the two. Think of all the things you did in that week, or where all the time went, and think, was it something I really, really wanted to do? Definitely wanted to, lit me up, made me feel incredibly alive. And then put all of those things in, if it was, all those things in the hell yes column. Otherwise, if you're not sure about it, put it in the no column. And so you can look at a week of your life and see what's going on. See maybe how much you're doing for other people that you don't really want to do. And so you might end up going down this journey of resentment to people because of this. Do you smile at everyone and everything, no matter if you disagree with them? Do you still smile and nod along? Because I got caught by that so many times. And it's almost like And this is how we kind of lose our own identity of who we are. We don't feel safe or confident enough necessarily to have a respectful conflict in the workplace, let's say. But I think this is really, really critical. And what I have noticed is every time I started to step from a place of follower or too nice into leadership and being bold and authentic without worrying what people think, a lot more authentic connection came back to me and deeper connections too. So I think this is essential for relationships. We sweep a lot under the rug. I know I used to in all my relationships. Things that bothered me, I would just kind of ignore them. And after time, this stuff builds up inside us until we have some kind of resentment, and then bigger problems will happen. I strongly, massively recommend this book, but the lessons here to wrap up are, I got my notes here, the lessons to wrap up. This book, we must undo layers, rules, and expectations to get back to authentic us. And then we'll have these most incredible connections. I can't tell you how many times people talk these days, and they never ever used to, about my energy and there's a different feeling about our connections. And a lot of it is down to this book, because I'm so much more real and authentic and know my own identity more than ever before, more than 37 years of my life. And be okay if people don't like us. That's hard to do, I know, but if everyone likes you, you're not being real. And try an exercise of saying no, but with love and appreciation. Say no a lot more to the things that take your energy away, the people that take your energy away. You don't have to follow and do everything everyone wants you to. All right, finally, my friends, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I think it's Tolle. This is a piece of magic. This is something you could read over and over again if it resonates with you. And it does get spiritual. It does get deep, especially if you've started to work on things like mindset and emotional awareness, spirituality a little bit, looking at things like living in the now and being grounded versus past and present and future. If you're intrigued by all of these topics, this is absolutely massive, and you don't have to agree with everything in the book if you choose. But I found it absolutely mesmerizing that I would listen to sentences over and over and over again, and I felt like sometimes every sentence had a magical bit of wisdom in something that could potentially change my whole life. And so, in summary, of what stuck out for me, the real highlights, Eckhart talks about the past and the future not existing. And this is kind of something that really screws up with your mind. And then Eckhart goes on to explain that this is your ego talking. So we haven't talked about ego much today, but that ego and undoing the layers of the ego is massive. And he'll go on and talk about how your ego is trying to work out what I am saying in the book. He's like, the ego is trying to intellectualize. I can't say that. Intellectualize. Is that the right word? The ego is trying to make sense of it. But again, like all the other books, it's actually all about a deeper feeling, an embodiment inside us. And so there's no future, no past, because he talks about everything is just a series of nows, and now split-second moments over and over and over again. So now is gone, this one's gone, now there's another one, now there's another one, now there's another one. And this leads to some really interesting conversations around there is no psychological pain. When we think of things that really upset us, or breakups or traumas from the past doesn't exist. And we're like, wait a minute, this is gonna mess with my brain. And it absolutely does. The past doesn't exist, that trauma doesn't exist. No, it was a moment that happened a long time ago. It was a moment that happened, and so essentially we are tuning in not to the past, we're tuning in the now to that moment. We're choosing to put all of our, like a spotlight, like a torch, we're thinking and experiencing in the now that past pain. And that is hard to digest because he talks about you can't digest this with your brain. You have to feel it. But after he repeats it over and over again, it becomes incredibly powerful to know that your psychological pain and trauma doesn't exist anymore. We are recreating it in the now. And so obviously this leads to things like detachment and letting go of traumas, but incredibly powerful. Moving on a little bit here to incredibly powerful things such as the more you can be in the now. I think of this like a spotlight effect of when you focus all of your senses. So again, getting out of our minds, thinking less. Eckhart talks a lot about thinking less because thinking can be so toxic, because again, thinking brings us to stories in the past. Thinking brings us to the past. So instead, we have to think almost nothing. We have to have no thought, and that will bring us truly into the now. So this is a crazy conversation, but a really empowering one once you start to see how this can bring epic changes in your life. And the way it can bring epic changes in your life is because it brings you epic changes in your perspective of how you are experiencing the world. And I'm not talking about the brain necessarily. We're talking about experiencing the world fully, with all of the senses and taking everything in. And that is something I can relate to that I've experienced on walks. I can go down a trail and be thinking and bouncing around on so many things and thinking, I come back thinking that was a nice walk. If I go down that trail, and as weird as it sounds, like walking the dog, I'm not thinking of anything, and I'm admiring the tree, and I can touch things in nature and experience that walk completely differently. Maybe you've got some music going and there's electricity inside me, and I come back and it's the same trail, but one of the most powerful experiences ever. I had this once with a waterfall where I stuck my head under a little waterfall locally, and it felt like I was having the same experience of when I went to Bali and I was standing in this massive epic waterfall having incredible goosebumps. And so this is the power of now. Thank you for joining me. Please subscribe if you appreciated this, if this was useful to you. There's a lot of books here, so please throw your comments below. I would love to know if you read these books, your experiences, what stood out for you. These were just my takes, but I appreciate all of you, and I will see you in the next video.